In this book is a masterclass on how to deal with rude people. So people are always asking, how do the Stoics deal with rude people? Well, Marcus Aurelius, the great emperor of Rome, wrote in his personal diary, the Meditations, on how to deal with rude people. And it's a simple exercise that you can do within just a few seconds, and it completely changes your perspective, and it helps you to make the best choices always. And this is something I've been doing for a long time without really knowing of this passage, but then recently read this passage, and it makes it so formulaic. It makes it so easy to understand and step by step. And it is something I've been doing every single day, and it has had a massive impact on my life. So this is from book 9 of the Meditations. And it's not just dealing with rude people, but in this situation, you've been confronted with a rude person. So you're driving and someone has cut you off, which Marcus Aurelius didn't say, but just imagine. Hurry to your own directing mind, to the mind of the whole, and to the mind of this particular man. To your own mind, to make its understanding just. To the mind of the whole, to recall what you are a part of. To this man's mind, to see whether there is ignorance or design, and at the same time, reflect that this is a kindred mind. So, right now, you've been confronted with what you consider a rude person, someone who's cut you off in traffic. And I'll give you my own examples soon. The first thing you do, and this happens within an instant, is you hurry to your own directing mind. So you've just been cut off, you've just been confronted with a rude person. You hurry to your own directing mind, what the Stoics called prohairesis. And you say to yourself that you must make your own understanding just. So the prohairesis, your directing mind, this part that you control, you make your understanding just. You remember that you don't control these externals, but you do control how you respond to it. And the way that you must respond to it, according to the Stoics, is in accordance with nature, which, simply put, is to be good. So you make your following actions and your following understanding based off of wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. That's an easy way to understand it. So in this moment, the Stoics talk, there's this pause, and this is your freedom to choice, your freedom to choose, as Viktor Frankl says in Man's Search for Meaning. And you always have this space, and that's your power. So when an event happens, a rude person confronts you, and they say something rude, normally our egos are hurt, and we instinctively react. And that's based off of the hurt. It's based off of our anger towards them. But what the Stoics are saying, and what Viktor Frankl was saying, is we have this space. When the event happens, we have this space that happens in a fraction of a second where we can choose, do we react to this out of anger? Do we quickly assess it? Do we walk away from it? We have this moment to actually choose, so we don't just get caught up in this thing from our ego and from our instant knee-jerk reaction. So the first thing we do with this pause is we make our own understanding just. And then when you read more of the Stoics, you'll understand what this means. But in simple terms, just make sure your own understanding is based off of wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. And that you aim to make your following actions based off of these 4 virtues. And then you go to the mind of the whole, to recall what you are a part of. So the Stoics obviously believed that we were part of this, what I like to call cosmic community, this idea of sympatheia, that all of us are interwoven into the fabric of humanity. And if you do one thing over there, it kind of ripples through the fabric. And, as Marcus Aurelius says, what is good for the hive is good for the bee. That all our actions should be taken with the aim of doing good for humanity. That's why they say that the crowning virtue is justice. The Stoics big on this idea of justice, that if you do good just for yourself and it is not good for other people, then this is not truly good. So we've firstly made our understanding and our intentions just and in alignment with virtue. And now we're reminding ourselves of the whole that we are a part of. Not just that our aim is to be social creatures as humans and do good for one another. Oftentimes people always ask me, what is good? Why is virtue good, according to the Stoics? And for a long time, I kind of struggled. I said the things I learned from Stoics, but I couldn't truly explain it, say, to a 5-year-old. But the way I like to understand it now, I like to explain it so people will get it, is the Stoics saw that God or nature has made this universe, and doing good is to keep the harmony within this universe. So if God is playing a melody, and he's the orchestrator, and we're part of the orchestra, then to live in accordance with virtue is to play the notes, play the instrument that God is giving to us, so that the melody stays in tune, stays in harmony. And that is the same as living in accordance with virtue. You keep the harmony with all people. If everyone kept living in accordance with virtue, everyone lived according to these 4 virtues, let's say, then the harmony would maintain. It's when people step out and they do bad, what the Stoics call vice, is bad. They live with cowardice, intemperance, unjust, and intemperance, foolishness. Mind went blank. When people live like this, that's when the harmony is disrupted, and that's when bad things start to happen. So we remind ourselves of the whole, but also that when things get a bit too heavy, a bit too overwhelming, remind ourselves as the whole that we are just a fraction of a dot on this great earth. But then also, if you keep zooming out, as the Stoic exercise, the view from above suggests, the more you zoom out, we are just a speck on a piece of dust floating through the cosmos. We're very tiny, and the current situation, the current stresses and events, everything, the weight of it falls away when we realize how small we are. I remember listening to, I'm doing a project with Tukul Lobsang, the 8th reincarnation, and he says the exact same thing as Mike Tyson, which is interesting enough. When someone was asking him how he stays so calm, how he seems to be so happy, he leant over, whispered in her ear, and he says, "I don't take life so serious." Mike Tyson says it's all just a joke. Because it's not so serious. In that moment, we get caught up and we think it's serious. But when we remind ourselves of our part in the whole, a lot of stress, a lot of worry, a lot of the weight falls away. And then we go to this man's mind to see whether there is ignorance or design. You see, the Stoics like to think that moral blindness was worse than actual blindness because people aren't aware of what they're doing wrong. And from what I understand, people don't think they're bad. People don't like to do bad things. They think they're doing the right thing, but they're just ignorant to it. They're not aware of it. And I'll have my own blindnesses that I'm not aware of. But through practicing Stoicism and trying to be open-minded and aware, I'll soon open my eyes to these moral blindnesses. But we have to understand that this person that has cut us off in traffic, they might not be aware they cut us off in traffic. They might think they're doing the right thing. Because when we have cut someone off in traffic before, we've told ourselves, we're late, this is an emergency, we have to get there, they will understand. But when someone else cuts us off, we don't offer them the same leniency. As Marcus Aurelius says, be lenient with others, be strict with yourself. So we have to understand that the actions aren't oftentimes taken out of malice or evil, but they're actually taken out of ignorance. They're not aware that they're doing wrong, or they seem to think what they're doing is right in the moment. And then ask yourself, is this by design? So, on the grand scale of things, the Stoics saw difficulties as a sparring partner. So a rude person, by design, is your sparring partner, trying to teach you. In boxing or wrestling, A good sparring partner will challenge you. They'll be very difficult. If you never had a good sparring partner, you'll never get very good. So if this is by design, this person being rude to you, this person cutting you off, is there to teach you something. I remember speaking to Aaron the other day, actually. I've released that podcast, The Conscious Man, and he was saying, you don't get what you prayed for, you get the opportunity to practice what you prayed for. So you're praying for patience, you're praying for empathy, you're praying for understanding, and then this person cuts you off. That's your chance to go, right, now I can practice patience. You can never practice patience, you can never practice empathy if life never tested you. You can never practice courage if there's never anything to stand up for. And then go and think that this man, this woman is of a kindred mind. So I love the way I wrote this. It was one of the first things I wrote in this copy of the Meditations, is that I actually don't know where I wrote it. It was something about good people. And anyway, I wrote it somewhere here, but I can't seem to find it. But that's what I don't know why I'm holding it up to the mic, like as if you can hear the book. But that's what my Meditations looks like. But the idea somewhere there is that Marcus Aurelius didn't really just see everyone as, the Stoics tried to push to the point where you see people as a brother or sister. So you treat them as a brother or sister. It helps be empathetic. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, you just let people walk all over you. If your brother or sister was doing bad, they were being bad people, you wouldn't let them just do this. You would help them. You'd help them see what they're doing is bad. Not for you, not for the world. Well, it would be for that, but also for them. It's damaging to the person doing the bad. The Stoics thought it was more harmful to the person that is living like this. So, what Marcus Aurelius then went on to explain in his Meditations, that I believe from his works, he didn't put this in words, but it's kind of clear throughout his writings. He didn't just see people as a brother or sister. He actually seen people as a fraction or an extension of himself. The Stoics believed that we had a fragment of Zeus, a fragment of the divine that was a part of all of us. And that is literally God is within us. And God is within all people. So we have to respect people in that way, as if you are religious, you're dealing with God when you're dealing with another person. You're dealing with yourself when you're dealing with another person, because we share that same part of the divine. And, that might seem like a lot to take in, but I was just trying to explain it. But next time you're faced with a situation like this, a rude person, just think to yourself, what must I do? Take that pause before reacting, before going crazy, before getting angry and doing what your ego craves. Go, I must make my understanding, my actions just. So no matter what happens here, I've got to be good. Don't get caught up in it. I've got to be good. And I try to understand this in a way that makes me good. That's number one. Number two, remind yourself of the whole world. You're supposed to be a social creature. To do good for yourself is to do good for the world. If you want to really be a good person, you have to help others. You have to be kind to others. You have to be caring. And also, this might seem like a big worry, but on the grand scheme of humanity, it's a tiny little thing. And then the last thing you've got to do is look into this person's mind. Understand that they might not be doing this out of hate or malice. It might be the way they were raised, it's their understanding, they're blind to this thing, or they think what they're doing is right, or that this person is here and they're teaching you something, and that they are a kindred mind. Because another thing you have to understand is, one thing I learned a long time ago, is when someone does something to you, they cut you off in traffic, they're rude, you have to think to yourself, have I ever done something like this? Could I be capable of doing something like this in some aspect? And then you have to think, well, if I'm capable of it, or if I've done it, then I have to understand that this person has been in the same situation as me, that they're doing the same thing that I've done. And I offered my self-grace, I offered my self-understanding, and then I grew from that thing. That's what this other person does. And as Marcus Aurelius says, offer them help if you can, or if not, just leave it at that. That's what I like about the Stoics. Very practical advice. And what's funny is, as you can probably see from this book, I've read this for like a decade and just like completely gone over it again and again, practiced everything. This wasn't my first copy, but this is my favorite copy. I like this translation. It's the Gregory Hayes, Martin Hammond translation. But the thing I love about the Stoics is, people say you don't step in the same river twice, you don't read the same book twice, because I've read this book so many times, read every passage so many times, but not long ago I read this on page 88, book 9, Hurry and Direct Mind. I read it and for some reason it really stood out to me. I've read that probably 100 times, didn't mean anything to me. Read it again, it stood out to me. And the thing about the Stoics, it will never change your life. What I'm saying to you now will never change your life. If I practiced Stoicism for a long time, I studied Stoicism for a long time, years, and it never changed my life properly until I decided to take this thing and put it into practice. I really did these principles. I like to say that 30 years of study is equal to a month of practice, or even say a month of practice is greater than 30 years of study. You take two guys and one studied basketball for 30 years, read all the books, and then one practiced basketball for 30 days, and then they go in a 1v1. Who would you bet your money on? This is all you knew about them. You'd bet your money on the person that's practiced. And this is the same with me with Stoicism. I read it for so long, but I watched all the videos, all the self-help videos, everything, all the mentors, and my life was actually getting worse over time. But then I spent 10 days really putting something like this into practice, and it was more growth, more change than I ever had in years. You can change your life in 10 days of practice. It just requires a lot of effort. Stop procrastinating by watching more of these videos and saving these things and saving posts and reels and carousels, thinking it's helping. You're just filling your mind with a lot of jargon and rubbish. Put it into practice. It will change your life. We're on good time. Hopefully that was helpful. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone leaving reviews for my book, The Everyday Stoic. Just out of frame. This book here, The Everyday Stoic, Simple Rules for a Good Life. It's really helpful, and I would like to ask something of you. If you're one of the people that watch my videos every day, you read my book, and you love the stuff I do, I see a lot of nice support comments and nice messages I get from you, love people. If you're one of those people or someone that's read my book, it really does mean a lot. Like one review coming through, I see that. Because I check it every so often, I see that one review coming from my book. So if it's on Goodreads or it's on Amazon, please now go and leave that review. This is your task for the day. And for those people like me that procrastinate on things that say I'll do it later, I'm urging you to kind of turn the tides on your procrastination. Do the thing you say you're going to do. So if you're one of those people like, I will leave a review, leave it right now. Just go there. It takes 1 minute. And it helps me massively, and it helps reduce your procrastination. I've figured in life, it's the small, tiny things. When you lose your way, it takes years of ignoring the signs. I'll work out tomorrow. I'll leave that review tomorrow. I just want that review. I'll leave that review tomorrow. I'll start taking action on Stoicism tomorrow. And that's where every day you get 0.1% worse. Atomic Habits, 0.1% over a year is 37.6 times better or 37.6 times worse or whatever. It's those tiny little fractions every day that compound and will change your life. So make that review today. Turn the tides of procrastination. Thank you very much for listening and have a wonderful day.